This is Zettelcast, brought to you by readers, writers, thinkers, and teachers from LiLLiPub, along with our partners in thought, our Zettelkastens. In this show, we share discoveries that our Zettelkastens have shown us.
There you go.
And compare notes on how we're using this marvelous invention in our creative work. Thank you for joining us.
All right, Book.
Let's do it again.
All right.
Episode 64, Return on Investment.
Okay, welcome to episode 64 of the Zettelcast. We've had a lot of episodes where we've talked about ways that we get stuff into our boxes. But I don't know that we have given as much to what do we do to make sure that it doesn't just go in there and talk among its friends and never actually create anything for the world. So it's really about output from the box. And so what I asked everyone to do is to assume that you have a card that's well placed in your Zettelkasten and indexed well. You've taken that step, which we've talked about a lot. What next for that card? What causes that card to pay off as an investment toward output? And so I asked people to come prepared with cards that are around this topic. And successes and failures are equally interesting. So I've got plenty of failures, but I was able to find a few successes myself. And I think that's, you only need a few for it to be worthwhile in general too. And you can learn from the failures. So that's the idea. It's just the four of us today, unfortunately, for us, but not for the justice system. Victoria has jury duty today, so we'll miss her, but it's the rest of us here. And who would like to start?
Well, as everybody knows, I don't have a a formal index. My voice doesn't want to work. I'm sorry. But this question forced me to look around at what I do have. And I discovered that I actually have more than I thought. I'm more organized than I thought I was. And one of the things that caused it in each one of these instances was some kind of burr under the saddle of the horse I was riding. Okay. And the first one was something that I missed that would have been really helpful had I not missed it. But I missed it because I have this situation with my email and my computer and blah, 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 blah. I don't want to go into all of that because that's just, stuff. The question is, how do I get around all this stuff and make it so that it doesn't matter? The stuff just doesn't matter. And I came up with this idea that I call the email Chronicle system. Email Chronicle system. And basically all it means is a profile is defined for some particular email source. So emails from LiLLiPub, emails from A, from B, from C, okay? They're all gathered together as they come in, and then they are organized, summarized, and put in a place where I can access them with a snap. And it's only in this paper form at the moment. But I was so pleased to come up with this Do you want us to talk about, you said bring several
Yeah,
examples?
you just start with that one. That's good. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a problem that arose as a solution that you could invent.
Yeah, because I'd never heard of this thing that I'm doing, but it may be out there someplace. Um, but I'm not going looking for it. I have, something that will work for me specifically under my conditions. I like that word is bespoke, to me, So, and I have two others that are less well formed, but if you want to go one by one, that's cool. I'll stop.
Yeah, we'll come around again probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Any response to Deb on her email Chronicle system? Anybody want one?
Well, I'm always interested in systems, so I'm curious how it works.
Yeah. I've got the pieces, Mel. And so this next week, I want to put these, or try to put these pieces together to see if I'm hallucinating or just falling for Chat GPT's BS. Well, the idea is there is so much craziness going on in the world today that it's easy to fall victim to X, Y, or Z thing. So the only way you can tell whether or not you have, a genuine diamond versus a faux diamond, a pseudo diamond, is to actually implement whatever it is and see how it works out. So I'll let you know. Okay. Yeah.
Super. Who would like to go next?
I'll go next.
Great.
So I actually have very little coming out of the Zettelkasten right now because my main output is, of course, my monthly newsletter. And generally what happens is I am researching for that letter specifically, and then I'm writing cards based on that research. And then I finish the issue, and it might be a few more weeks or months or mumble before those cards actually get numbered and indexed, etc., into the Zettelkasten. So I've completely failed in my determination, which I think I mentioned maybe like 6 months ago, to try and keep track of the cards that were involved with each newsletter. That has not happened because by the time I'm actually putting them in, I don't remember that they go to a particular issue. Although my most recent one, which I had actually done before you brought up this topic, so it was like I was answering a question that hadn't even been asked yet, but I was writing a card and I wrote on it, this came about from issue number 16. So later, when I actually file this thing, I can start making a directory card of things that were used in issue 16. So all of this is this stuff that I'm researching for the newsletters. It's going into my Zettelkasten because I expect to use it again when I write the book. And also, who knows where it will come up useful if it talks to something else. So output is mostly happening simultaneous with input and not coming from the Zettelkasten right now. But that will change as I continue putting more stuff in and writing things that are based off of that rather than doing immediate research. But there was one example that I was able to find of something coming out of the Zettelkasten because it was the very first card, which I've talked about before, which Scott Shepper said, write this card, this is how you start your Zettelkasten. And it was a quote from Nicholas Luhmann about, communication partners have to surprise each other, was the gist of it. So that had been filed a long time ago. This was still a ways ago, but I had happened to make a connection between Ramon Lull's work and this quote. And so then I ended up writing an entire section of the newsletter about that connection, which I hadn't planned to do so at that time because I hadn't made that connection. So that was an example where, something I was working on reminded me of this card. I went and found the card, found the connection, and then I wrote about it. So there has been a little bit of output from the Zettelcast, and that's the example that I was able to find.
Yeah. Yeah, and do you have a sense of the time span between those two events, the filing of that first card and?
I could tell you, let's see, the first card was in April of 2022. And I foolishly did not date the second card, but it would have been earlier this year. So a couple of years. Yeah. Yeah, I foolishly did not date the cards that went after it. Sometimes I forget to do that. But yeah, it would have been a couple of years difference.
Yeah. I mean, I asked because that has happened in mine, that a lot of times something bears fruit after a long gestation period. And I'm starting to learn to just trust it.
Mhm.
And not beat myself up about, well, I put that in and I didn't make anything from it, so that's great. Kathleen.
Okay, well, my normal output is my newsletter and the book I'm writing on the Zettelkasten. And for those, of course, I pull cards. I've got about a 3-inch stack for the Zettelkasten book alone. But to me, that is the more, you expect that. Because you put it in for that reason. I'm more interested in the things that come out as a surprise. I found 4 examples to share, and they all relate to the same theme, which is this language that we're beginning to develop for our Roanoke project, our Lillian language, which is some of it is vocabulary of the character traits. A lot of it is from LiLLiPub and the symbology that Mel created, and then I'm adding some symbols for the character traits. And Julianne, your contribution that we should talk about having maybe just assuming that people understand the character traits and throwing that around as vocabulary. And Deb, your suggestion that we make it a full-blown language that goes beyond those things. So this is a very exciting, it's not immediately directed right now because it's in the formulation stage. And to me, that's when things are super exciting, is when they're growing and developing. And so I wanted to share how stuff came out of my Zettelkasten to help feed that project. Well, one of the first things is on the topic of motivation. And this is a card that I copied from a post by Deb. And it goes back to February of this year when she's talking about how she was talking about symbology here. And in this case, how knowing your why will set fire to your firecracker so that it takes off and goes somewhere. And so, this is kind of my reminder to think about, well, why? Why are we wanting this language for Lydia? And so that's my reminder to say, okay, what's the motivation for this? I think in part it's because in Lydia we have the links so people can think more symbolically. They don't have to reduce everything to words. And so that could be a key element of the why, but we can't lose the why. So then the next thing I was thinking about is things that the big area that I get into where I'm pulling information out of my Zettelkasten all the time is as a part of the filing process. So when I put away a new card or when I go to file it, figure out its home, I'm always looking through my index and finding related cards in the Zettelkasten. So things are coming back to life all the time at the same time as that I work. Sometimes it's very directly related, like I'm working on I want to develop the character traits. I've kind of gotten this awareness that if I want to be able to say the character traits, if I want to present the character traits in a newsletter or a video or whatever, in the simplest way possible, I may have to explore them through the whole LiLLian logic system so that I understand them completely all the way out to the edges, so that the simplest thing can be found within the complexity. You can't, it's all a jumble, like all of the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle laid out on the table. And you got to find the one that makes now this is the center part of the picture. I need to present this first. And then later you can get to the other details. So this tracked me back to, okay, where am I going to go for it? I've got LiLL's system will ensure I get everything from the character traits, and five core competencies that are foundational to development. Lots of different things that relate to gathering that information. Then I came to one where I want to talk about, well, what order, how do I want to actually go about teaching them? What are the principles that are going to guide that? And in this case, I came up with something that I'm going to call in the failure department. Because it's one of those dreaded purple open parentheses. And what that symbol meant from the earliest days of my Zettelkasten was, this is the name of a divider. This is a divider title. And the divider title is Techniques for Language Teaching. Whoa, that's relevant. But Techniques for Language Teaching doesn't say anything except what it's about. It's tantalizing, but it's fruitless. It's like coming upon a gorgeous set of fruit, and then you discover, oh, it's not ready to be eaten yet. What, are we going to come back later? What are you going to do? How are you going to get that out of there? And so this is what it pointed to. It pointed to a divider in my system. And these are all very, very old cards. These all go back to 2021, my earliest days. And there isn't a single card, even one has an early tagline from the earliest days of creating a tagline, but there isn't a single card in this directory card that is individually indexed. And all but one have no tagline. So now I've got to do some work here for these cards to be able to be useful. I've got to read them. I've got to give them a response and a tagline. I've got to index them properly, and then see, well, what about this stuff about teaching a language is going to be valuable for us? Because what we're going to be trying to do with our Roanoke language is teach it by osmosis. We're not going to say, okay, lesson 1, the grammar, We're expecting our readers to be able to acquire the language the way children acquire their own native language, just by hearing it be spoken around them, with sufficient context to understand. And so I want to know, because I remember these are some notes that were taken in my earliest days of retirement, or I wasn't even all the way retired, but my earliest days of expecting to soon be retired. And they're on language study, which is what I thought I was going to be spending my retirement days doing. So that's my contribution.
You were preparing for it, as it turns out.
Yeah. Little did I know. I was laying the groundwork for something entirely different.
And yet related.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. So, you're holding up of those cards that need more work. I'm reminded immediately from the timeless way of building of the process of repair.
Ah, yes.
And which leads me to my little story that this is something I'm very happy that it happened this way. So I've got 3 cards. They're all Roanoke cards. And the first one was created in October of 2024. The second one was December of 2024. And the third one is October of this year. So the first one from October of 2024 is the card that I created about a Lukasa. And I created it because we had this Zettelcast podcast. And I wanted to talk about it, and there wasn't a card. And so I made the card so that I'd have the card. And just to share with everybody else, and I read it at the time that a Lukasa is a handheld memory palace for encyclopedic storage. And, you know, I wrote some more detail on the card, but that, you know, the tagline does its job, as Kathleen advertises with a good tagline. I read that tagline and I remember the gist of what else is on the card. So it's been very helpful, and it's just in my main Zettelcast and not really part of the Roanoke project. But I knew that memory techniques and stuff from the Knowledge Gene and Memory Craft and those works by Lynn Kelly were things I wanted to include in the Roanoke project once we began it. So it was there, and it was indexed, thankfully. And so the next one that came just a couple months later, this is a scene card. This and it's the first in a branch in the Roanoke project, and the tagline is "Not quite time-honored building tradition leads to discovery." And so what this refers to, a scene depicting an expansion of a family compound following the procedures of the timeless way. And I will tell you, I still don't know how that's going to turn out. And that's something, you know, I'm leaning into what I didn't even know was a thing called discovery writing. Just throw the dart out there, because that phrase I was just taken by. A not quite time-honored building tradition leads to discovery. What do they discover? We'll find out. How does it lead there? We'll find out. And then in October of this year is where I finally put on my big girl pants, and I wrote some meat in that scene. And where I have Chris introducing the quality with no name at this thing that we're calling the buildup, which is the scene where the building tradition is beginning, and the thought to use a Lukasa as an important part of that happened because of the Zettelkasten. Can I say definitively that I would have thought of that or wouldn't have? I don't know. I think that I increased my chances by making this Lukasa handheld memory palace for encyclopedic storage just prominent enough in my index that I kept running into it. You know, it's tagged in under memory, Lukasa, encyclopedia. It's got a lot of places where it's gonna, hey. And the quality with no name is a chapter from The Timeless Way of Building that to me is just one of the most beautiful things that a human has ever written. And to be able to try to imagine a future family and friends who really just embrace the words in that chapter in a way that they will be able to remember later was incredibly inspiring. But by the time I got to it in October of this year, I was ready to try to write it. And so that's part of what happens, is that these things ripen. And I feel like your ability to create output from it ripens too. forcing yourself, the fact that this scene is supposed to be at the beginning of the book that's a burr under my saddle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm writing with other people. They need to know what happens. So, for me, this is turning out, the Roanoke project is for me turning out to be the way for me to explore ideas, create output from them, that keeps the process flowing and going. And do I need to actually make a Lukasa in order to write about the use of a Lukasa? Not necessarily. There are people who, over in LiLLiPub, we've got Ogilvy Stent, who is not constantly, but she frequently shares her process of how she goes and learns something about a part of the world she's never going to go to. And the people who are there and the kinds of things that they do, and she grabs just enough detail that she can inhabit in her writing. And that's extremely inspiring because, you can still use it as fuel for your fire without having to become a master of the subject yourself. So that's my happy story.
I think that's great because it gives us a pass, so to speak, to using not everything we come across, but much of what we come across that we find striking, so and so it concretizes the it's okayness of it, so good.
Yeah. I'll just have a little one. This was going to be a failure card, but it's a related success card. So I think I've talked about my vision box from all my 53 different projects that I was interested in doing. My vision box has a bunch of cards that are not filed yet. So there's a failure. But the first one that I picked up that I was going to say, okay, I'll just pick at random because those are all failures. It's like, my game idea backlog stimulates lifelong learning. That was the tagline. And I had written, I want to develop a backlog of game ideas so that I can incorporate play into my lifelong learning process. The secret is the purple text where I put my personal reflection as I made a second pass through the vision box. Look for synergies with story ideas. And that opened up a whole thing, which is, do I have to build the game or maybe I'll just design it in a narrative?
Yeah.
So we're going to have a game with character traits.
Yeah.
It features a game with character, and we'll figure out what are the rules.
Yep. And I guess we'll probably have some new street names to go with those streets that you were naming with game components.
Yeah.
Like court, and I forget what some of the other ones.
Arena, board,
Yeah.
court, field.
Yeah. We'll have some that will seem mysterious until people discover how the game is actually played.
That's brilliant because we've got a lot of letters. So yeah, I did two here, but it's the same thing. The permission to not do the first thing and to connect it with other things, which is just as satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So Deb, you had more things. Do you want to share?
Yeah, the next one is comes out of my earworm experience. I keep one of the things that I found, I didn't even realize I was doing it, but I was there's this game called Wuduko. I don't know if that's the Wuduko or Wukodu or whatever it is. It's like you move cubes around, shapes around, and make them match, and it's like a dignified Tetris sort of. But it doesn't. Nothing falls. You have to move things to make it match up. And I noticed that for some reason, in the course of doing game after game after game after game, I would start hearing songs or song parts in my head. They would just pop up. And I thought to myself, what the heck what is this? Because I think in terms of the subconscious, always trying to find ways to tell us stuff. But we are so stubborn and so oblivious to its gentle nudges that we sometimes have to be, slammed over the head, maybe, or something. But anyway, I said, okay. And you know me, ChatGPT, what could this possibly mean? What is what is this? And so it turns out that I wasn't so nutsy cuckoo after all. That this kind of place where you go is a kind of a reverie place when you are doing these games, and there is a part of your mind that's freed up. It's part of the subconscious that's freed up when you're in that game state, and that's where the messenger in the subconscious chips in and whispers things to you in ways that you will hear and understand. So, for example, I kept hearing, "We are family. We are family. I got my sisters with me." And I said, what? No, what does this mean? Another time I was hearing Mr. Big Stuff. "Who do you think you are, Mr. Big Stuff?" Then I was hearing "At Last." Remember Etta James? At last. Anyway, the idea was, what does all this mean? And at last was a point of clarity and relief. We are family is a need for belonging. And another one was, what have you done for me lately, Janice Jackson? Accountability, right? And Mr. Big Stuff, assertiveness and protection. So the idea was to grab all of these things, put them together, and see if it showed me anything, and it did. So I was happy about that. But again, this is just in the just in the get it down on paper stage. And again, I have to thank you for this topic, Julianne, because I never would have done it without you. So
Nothing like a deadline.
There's nothing like there's nothing like a well-placed question. I mean, deadlines certainly help, but those targeted questions, they're the fuel. So
I love questions.
yep.
Here, this is my word cloud of my index. Notice how prominent questions is.
Yep. Yeah.
Very nice.
So, Mel, do you have any other stories to share, or did you already get...
They all came out in the first try.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. How about you, Kathleen?
Likewise, they all were so related. I just presented them at once.
Okie doke. Okie doke. Well, so here's one of my projects that, my vision box that who knows if it'll ever happen. It's not indexed. So if any of my former colleagues from my last job are watching this, they might know what I'm referring to. I will describe it. So the tagline is living driver tree as information radar for squad me. Now, what the heck does that mean? Well, so squad, let's start backwards. Me is me. Squad me is thinking of myself as a team,
Okay.
an agile team. And, sometimes, where you're wearing different hats, you're the chief cook and bottle washer, right? So information radar is something that in my world of agile coaching is a technique that where I worked, nobody ever did it because it takes some work to do it. But it's a way of having a display that's very succinct, gauges and dials and whatever, that anybody, it's very prominent, anybody who's on the team can just look at it in their place of work and see how are we doing. In all of the ways that we choose to measure that. And so some of it might be how does our work seem to be approaching a finished state? And how does that match up with when we promised we'd be finished with it? That's kind of classic project management stuff. But what's the quality of what we have created so far? How often has it been tested, and does it succeed in its tests? That's another thing. You also want to take into account harder things to measure, which is how's everybody feeling? Is everybody engaged, or are they feeling stressed in a helpful way or stressed in an unhelpful way? So however you choose to measure success, that's information radar is some kind of just display of charts and dials and whatever that you can just look and you can know at a moment's notice, how are we doing? So it's got to be living. So, and then the other thing, the living driver tree. So the driver tree is an exercise that we would take a team through. So in corporate software development, the people in the business who want things, they want a million things. And they are not used to being questioned. Why do you want this? And not having the answer, because I said so, be acceptable. So it takes a little bit of trust between the technology people and the business people to get to this point where you can say, why do you want this? So the living driver tree is a way of taking all these ideas that somebody wants to turn into a tangible product and really going for the why and showing that, one, we believe with we believe with this amount of certainty, because we won't know until we're done, that if we build this thing, it will make it possible for this other super valuable thing to occur. And how are we going to test whether that's true or not? Right? So the driver tree was a one-time exercise that when a team was first forming and they were working with their business, they would say, okay, we want all those things, and here's the reason why we want them. And it forced a degree of understanding the why for the business people, but then it was extremely helpful for the technology people to know, oh, that's why, because then their creativity is engaged as well. Mm-hmm. So my idea when I was working there that never really got off the ground as much as I would want it to, would be able to turn that driver tree into the information radar. So that we're constantly seeing what have we done and how has it, and it's not just a PowerPoint exercise, it's actually how we're looking to see how we're doing. So yeah, I want to build that thing so that I am able to prioritize my own work.
Yeah.
However, I said there is a product potential here as well. But this is an area where squirrel.
Yeah.
I can get diverted from this kind of disciplined way of doing stuff really quickly. And I'd just rather be doing than this hard work of really reflecting on the why. So it gave me a lot of empathy for the business people who didn't like being pushed.
I can really relate because for 25 years, I was the in-house programmer for a company. And so when I met with the business people, they were all, the people that I knew personally, and I was the one that was going to have to do whatever it was that got done. I was a team of one. We had a web programmer and we had a hardware network guy, but when it came to the internal operations, I was it. So what I would do also, that why was super important. And I would discover very often someone would ask for something that was really difficult to program. And when you asked them why, they'd say, well, because I can do this, 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 and this, but then I'm missing another piece here. But if I had that, then I could do this, this, and this, and I'd have the valuable thing that I want. And I would look at that and say, okay, the piece you want is going to be really, really hard, but I can give you the valuable thing you want way easier.
Yes.
And the other factor was that sometimes people have this valuable thing they want, and you'd ask them, okay, what are you doing now? How are you getting around not having this valuable thing? What is your substitute? Where's the pain point in what you're having to substitute? And you can very often quite easily get rid of the worst pain point and get them to 80% of what they wanted very easily. And then you'd have to prioritize. Now, what's the priority of going that last bit? And very often they say, well, I can finish that up. That doesn't have to be the number one thing. I can continue doing that part by hand. However, what really, really drove me about that was I love your idea of that design tree and letting that be, as you hinted, I've got a vision box like you too. How do you see that tree working for you with your vision box?
I could see it working. Yes. Yeah. Figuring out how to build it and make it dynamic and so on. We are now in a world of ChatGPT where I don't necessarily need to write every line of code if it ends up being a coding exercise. And even before then, just getting it down to a manual process that is automatable later. You're testing it out with a paper prototype in a way. I'm feeling like perhaps this is an area for the Lightner box as an exploratory tool, because the Lightner, if the problem with the Lightner box is it's a box.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the problem with folders and those sorts of things. It's like, okay, you've put it away. It's not cluttering your desk anymore. And phew. But yeah, having that process where it's not just a pile of cards, but it's even just starting with the prioritization exercise, going through that Lightner box, because it causes you to, in a a predictable but not too predictable manner revisit things. That's, that space, the space built into that space repetition of the Lightner box is, I think, the real beauty of it. And so, yeah.
So there's another sort of system that is list based rather than card based, which I ran across it as a method of like keeping track of your chores and things you needed to do. But I've used it for more than that, and it's called Autofocus. You can look it up online. But the gist of it is that you just start writing down on your sheet of paper in your notebook. It should be bound, whatever it is. You start making your list. And I started with a full-size sheet and it was too much. I don't like that. So I'm using a little like 3x5 notebook that I carry around. So it doesn't have as many lines per page. But what you do is you look at your page and you decide, what do I want to do? Or what do I want to think about off of those choices? And the rule is you can't, if you look at the page and there's nothing on it that you want to do, that you can make yourself do, every one of them gets removed and highlighted so that they go out of the system. Like if you don't want to do them after having written them down, then get them out of here and highlight them so that you remember it. And that only applies to the first time you look at that page that day. But so you look at the first page, you do at least one thing off of the first page, and then you can do more on the page, or you can go to the next page. And if you don't finish whatever it is, then you write it at the end. So if it's something that's going to take multiple passes at, if you do something, if you make a phone call or look something up or whatever to move it forward, then you can move it to the end, even if you can't do anything else. So what happens is that it forces you to revisit things that have been on there for a while because you start at the first page each day. But it also keeps things in front of you. And one of the suggestions is to look through it all before starting officially. So that if something is like, oh, that's critical, I need to work on that, just do that rather than waiting where you might not even get to it. But so I use it mostly for keeping track of tasks and projects, but I also have things on there that are more conceptual, like, think about this or write about this, or, so it might be something that would be more in your face than a box full of cards.
Yeah. Autofocus. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, what I would start with is really getting the why clear on each of these things. What we would do is I want an X so that.
Yeah.
And the so that is the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, and I in some of these I have those, but that's the first step in the autofocus thing, is come up with so that's.
Yeah, that so that is so fueling, because talking about the language, I've been trying to pull together all the symbols that you come up with, Kathleen, the symbols that you've come up with, Mel, the symbols that I've run across. There's this guy named Parker. I don't know if he pronounces his last name Zettelcast or Zettelcast or Zettelcase, but he's a writer off of Substack, a philosopher. Anyway, and he has some marginalia symbols that he uses as well. So that plus seedism and Michael Dean's symbols, all of these, trying to bring it all together so that it's one system that can be used, whether you're typing, walking down the street, writing, thinking, or communicating with another individual. So these are pronounceable and writable, So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
And-
pronounceable thing is going to be a next step, I think, for Kathleen's language.
Yeah.
well, that's what I'm.
The character traits themselves, which can be pronounced.
Hmm?
So the character trait, each of the character traits is capable of being pronounced.
Right.
But so in that sense, they're already pronounceable. So maybe you can fill in for me, Julianne, where you're going.
You're creating something that goes beyond the depth of naming the things.
Okay. Yeah.
You're creating something that really shows a kind of a emotional lineage.
Yes, definitely.
And
Again,
that's where the great insights are.
yeah, the of what question of law is turning out to be the most productive of all. But there's many more questions there that have to be answered. And that's a question I want to ask you, Mel. You talk about, I was just trying to go back through the issues of your newsletter and talk about, when LiLL was so big on what a thing does, what question most typifies asking what the thing does?
Well, for him, it would be probably what, because
Oh, okay, because what means what it does.
mhm.
But what has things like
And-
definition, essence, and what's the third one? I happen to have a little handy reference here that I can look up. Just answer the question of what. Okay, so there was that's C, and C is definition, essence, and what is it in something else? What does it have in something else? I don't see anything that says what does it do in something else.
It's because I said what because when LiLL makes definitions, one of the ways that he makes definitions that he really likes is defining things by what they do.
Okay, okay, so it lives there.
So,
Okay.
Deb,
so
I
that
think
would-
I diverted. You were in the middle of making a point, I think.
No, well,
Did you get to make it?
Yeah, you did sort of, but that's okay because every road leads somewhere, So it's and we're not going off topic. It's still on topic, so that's okay. What I was trying to do, because my whole thing, the thing that I'm after, the so that all revolves around the idea of capturing my thought, my thinking as fast as I can think. That's the whole idea that I'm after. Okay, whatever road gets me there, I'm on it. That's good. So, and of course you think in all kinds of different contexts. Nothing's, I mean, what state aren't you not thinking? I mean, maybe you don't know you're thinking, but you're still thinking. It's there. Your mind is always going. So how do you capture this? Is there a way to do this? And can you speak to somebody in those pre-verbal forms? Can you? So it strikes me that, I mean, I was trying to get to it through shorthand of some sort, and then everybody started talking about these different symbols, and I'm thinking, okay, and I thought, what a thing. I call it seedism, for lack of a better title. But it's when you speak in terms of seeds. you share your conversations are a cultivation of these seeds, and you plant thoughts in other people, and they so I'm trying to bring all of this together, thinking in terms of being able to write it, type it, speak it, think it, talk it, back and forth. That it should be a unified something that can be done. That's that's
I need a little bit more that's a little more concrete, but so if we take your image here, this was really powerful for me because that shows that you've got that rocket that's ready to take off, but sitting on the ground, it's not going anywhere. And then someone comes up with the match, which is the Y, and boom, off it goes. So
Yeah.
that's very strong symbolism. Is what are the C's in this? Are they like the Y itself and the rocket and
the seeds or the little things that capture the whole. It's like, for lack of a better term, but because I really don't like this term, but jargon, right?
Okay.
It's like if you're talking to two people who are deep into a particular subject, right?
Uh-huh.
They can use one term,
Yeah.
and it carries an encyclopedia of stuff, but it's one term, and it's perfect. They understand it. I mean, there's no question. They say, and every time we do this. But have you thought if we do that, it'll do another thing?
Yeah.
Everybody listening to them who's not in that field would think, huh? But if you're in it and you understand it, you need fewer and fewer words to convey more and more stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the so that to me. Those are the finding those seeds, making them speakable and writable and capturable through symbols.
Okay.
That's the so that. So we can I don't have to use all these sounds, to convey what I'm conveying. I mean, there may be one single seed that says everything I've said in the last 5 minutes in a single utterance. That's the seed. Did that make it sort of clearer?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, this is probably not an example of what you'd actually use, but maybe the phrase would be snap and go. I mean, that it wouldn't be those specific words, but something that would indicate that there's a trigger and then a liftoff of the project.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not
Match
good at
light.
coming up.
Match light.
Yeah.
A catalyst. I mean, it's anyway. I think we can do it. I think we can do it. I really do. And what's more, I think through the story, through the experiences of the Lydians,
Yeah.
it becomes a world fulfilled.
Yeah.
And a language used.
Yeah.
And an experience felt by both reader and writer.
Mhm.
I've used the word before, and I'm going to use it again. I think it can become viral. I
Mhm.
really do.
Yeah. If we do it right, I think you're
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Some of those words are just going to click with people, and they're going to be so efficient for saying exactly what was in their heart to say that they're going to start using them with their friend because their friend read that same passage and will know what they meant.
Yeah, like people started saying that they grok it,
Yeah.
GROK.
Yeah.
The same exact thing. It's I am but an egg. That whole,
Yeah.
so you understand that because that's just single lived experience,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so, or shared lived experience.
And of course, that's the power of story right there, is because your reader is living an experience that's not in their, they're in a corner on a rainy day with a mug of tea, but they're living an experience that they've never would have had a chance to do. Like, oh my gosh, I'd love to be on a rocket ship headed to a game world. Whoa.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's the other part. That's the other thing that I'm trying. So I have bits and pieces of it that I'm pulling together, and I'm just gonna put it in the same way I put the thing in. Oh, you leave it? Okay.
No, Mel has to go.
Yeah, that's what that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Bye, Mel.
The I'm gonna put it in the same place with the Roanoke authors,
Yeah.
where I put the other stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I looked through it, but as a typing system, it probably wouldn't be for me. But I'm really fascinated about the language as it comes out, especially spoken and the hand-drawn version of the symbols. That really interests me.
yep, yep. I just want to be able to for it to have no barrier,
Yeah,
no
yeah.
place where it doesn't function,
Yeah,
so
Wherever you're thinking,
yeah,
there it is for you to get it down.
yeah,
right, right.
yeah. And are we going to be looking for invented words? Because if we just combine known words, then we're just back to describing things again.
No. I mean, the system has already come up with at least 10 words.
Okay.
I mean, 10 is not very many, but but it's still, these are made up words that have meaning,
Uh-huh.
and it's this meaning exists only in a world where there is no such thing as zero sum.
Uh-huh. Oh, I like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then that's the way I think of Lydia. There's no
Yeah, there is no. Yep.
right.
Nope.
So
Yep.
this
Yeah,
this
when
is
Helen needed extra time to get her meal on the table, it didn't take any time away from anyone else.
yeah, right, right, and it just worked out.
Yeah.
It's just so it's very excited about this whole thing. It's good, good,
Yeah.
good.
Where can people find us to discuss more of these interesting topics about the Zettelkasten and about writing?
You can come on over to LiLLiPub.org. This is where we hang out when we're not in YouTube land. You can join us over in LiLLiPub. We have some great conversations, and we've got writing, and we explore the character traits. And Mel teaches about Ramon Lull and some fantastic logic systems. LiLLiPub.org. It's your place to grow and develop. It could be your digital home away from home. See you over there. Bye-bye.
Bye.